You changed the words. You made them about me." The little girl said it with the wondering certainty of someone who has just discovered something important. She was 4 years old, standing on the sidewalk of Calloway Street in a yellow coat, looking up at the young woman with the guitar who had, over the past 6 minutes, quietly adjusted her song's second verse to include a girl in a yellow coat who liked puddles and probably had a cat. The singer looked at her. "How do you know there's not a real girl in a yellow coat in the song?" "Because you looked at my coat first," the girl said. And then the words changed. The singer smiled, the real kind, unguarded. "You're very observant." "My dad says that too," the girl said. "He says I notice everything." She paused. "Do you know any songs about stars?" "I know one," the singer said. "Do you want to hear it?" The girl sat down on the sidewalk in her yellow coat without ceremony and said yes. Her name was Lark Vane, 27 years old. She had been singing on Calloway Street on Saturday mornings for 8 months, not primarily for money, though the open case collected enough to matter, but because she wrote better songs when she had sung them to people first. Streets were her first audience. If a song survived Calloway Street, it was ready for the recording she did in the spare room of her apartment with equipment that was functional, if not forgiving. She had been working on a song about her mother for 3 weeks. It wasn't finished. She had been trying to write the second verse for 11 days, and it kept coming out wrong. Too much or too little, or arranged in the right words in the wrong order. She had been singing around it all morning. Then a 4-year-old in a yellow coat had stopped on the sidewalk and looked at her with complete attention, and Lark had looked at the yellow coat and changed the second verse without thinking, and it had come out right. She filed this information carefully. Songs sometimes found their shape through strange doors. He was watching from across the street. Rowan Calloway, 33 years old, stood outside the coffee shop with 2 cups, one for him. One intended for his daughter, who had been beside him 60 seconds ago and was now sitting on the sidewalk, across the street listening to a street singer with the focused attention she brought to things she had decided were important. He had not gone after her immediately. He had watched her sit down. He had watched the singer adjust to the small person who had arrived in front of her without preamble. He had watched his daughter's face do the thing, the wide-open, transported expression that meant she had been taken somewhere by something and was entirely willing to go. He stayed across the street. He watched. His daughter's name was Rue. She had been through a hard autumn. Her grandmother had passed in September, which Rue was processing in the specific non-linear way that 4-year-olds process grief, which mostly meant she had been quieter than usual and had stopped asking to hear her grandmother's particular lullaby because she said it made her chest feel tight. She had not smiled like this in 6 weeks. Rowan stood across the street with 2 cups of coffee and felt something loosen in his chest that he hadn't known was still locked. The star song lasted 4 minutes. Rue sat for all of it. When it ended, she stood up, dusted off her coat with the efficiency of someone completing a task, and said, "My grandma used to sing to me. She went away." Lark was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry," she said. Simply and completely. She said music stays, Rue said, even when people go. Lark looked at this 4-year-old who had just said the sentence that the second verse of her mother's song had been trying to find for 11 days. She sat with it for a moment. She was right, Lark said. Music stays, Rue nodded, satisfied. She looked across the street at her father, who had apparently decided the moment was complete and was crossing toward them. She waved at him with the authority of someone who has been managing a situation and is now prepared to make introductions. Rowan crossed the street. He looked at the singer, then at his daughter, then at his daughter's face, which was still carrying the expression from the song, that open, transported look, and said to Lark, simply, "Thank you." She sat down on her own, Lark said. "I just kept singing." "She doesn't do that," he said. "Sit down like that." "Not lately." He paused. We've had a hard few months." Lark looked at him, then at Rue, then at the guitar in her hands and the morning she'd spent trying to find the right words. "She told me music stays," she said. He was quiet. "Her grandmother said that." "It's the truest thing I've heard all month," Lark said. He came back the following Saturday. Rue came back too in the same yellow coat and sat down in the same spot on the sidewalk with the proprietary comfort of someone returning to a regular seat. Lark played the star song again because Rue asked, then a new one. Then one that was slower and had a verse about grandmothers and music and the things that stay. Rue was very still through the new one. When it ended, she said, "Did you write that one this week?" "Yes," Lark said. "Is it about your grandma?" "My mother," Lark said. "She passed a few years ago." Rue considered this. "Did the music help?" "Writing it did," Lark said. "It gave me somewhere to put it." Rue nodded slowly, with the expression of someone filing important information. She looked at her father. "Daddy, we should write a song for Grandma." Rowan looked at his daughter, then at Lark. He had the expression of a man who had been quietly hoping for something to give his daughter back to herself, and had just watched it arrive on a Saturday morning on a sidewalk in a yellow coat. "Would you help us?" he said to Lark, carefully, genuinely. She looked at Rue, who was watching her with the expectant openness of someone who has already decided the answer is yes. "I think she might help me too," Lark said softly. "She already found the line I was missing." Rue stood up and brushed off her coat again. "It's what Grandma said," she said simply. "I just told her." The Saturday morning continued around them. The street, the coffee shop, the open guitar case with its collection of ordinary generosity. Inside the morning, something that had begun with a changed second verse, and a girl in a yellow coat was quietly becoming something none of them had planned and all of them needed. Sing to the person who stops to listen. Change the words when the moment asks. The song you're trying to finish might be waiting for someone who already knows the line. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.